Here he comes right now. An icon
Hello.
of cinema and culture. He's a tastemaker. He's John Waters. Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you consider yourself that? Yeah, you can if you want.
Do I consider what?
Consider yourself that?
An icon
like an
and a
icon or,
tastemaker?
or
Well,
a
I wouldn't say
trendsetter?
that. I try to be humble and say a filth elder. I think that kind of makes it sound a little more humble.
Do you think people's openness is kind of caught up to the way you always saw things?
Yeah, I didn't change so much. I mean, my last movie was about sex addicts. This book, Mr. Know-It-All, has chapters about sex clubs in New York and how I'm going to beat death and crawl out from under the mud. And yeah, so I think, I don't think I've changed that much. I think the humor that I've always liked has become more just American.
Have you gone to sex clubs?
Oh, yeah. In the old days, everybody went. You went every night. It was amazing.
You ever go to the vault? We tried to the vault. We tried to go once, but by the time we went, it had moved. It was just some guy's apartment.
The Hellfire was the best one because it was
That's the
straight
one.
and gay.
Was that
right?
in the meatpacking? That was.
They all were in the meatpacking. Now all these really fancy restaurants are there, and I thought, I wouldn't be eating in here if I were you. I'll remember the stuff that went on in here.
What was Hellfire like?
Hellfire, you walked down in the dungeon, and there was like a 200-pound woman in a nurse uniform with an enema kit, and women got in free, and men were $10, and you would just walk around, and it was mixed. It was straight and gay, and people, a lot of intellectuals, famous people went there with slum touring, right? And then you'd be talking in a glory hole, and then a penis would come through a wall and hit you in the back. Oh, and just move away and start talking about a new novel with a literary editor.
Wow.
Unless you were by yourself, then you maybe addressed the
then
penis.
There were
Yeah.
some people that did. You could participate or not. So
Right.
it was safe to go. You could bring friends. You might be sitting there and you looked at somebody had crawled over and licked your feet. You just kicked them away.
So it was like the Soho House, but with dicks and enemas
Yes,
everywhere.
it was. Yeah,
It
it kind
actually
of was.
sounds very
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Now, is that because, do you feel like we're living in a time now where labels for things are going away? Straight, gay, and bi. And
Well, I'm glad for that. I
Yeah.
think you should be able to decide. It depends on the person. You
Right.
know? And I know gay people men that have got girlfriends and they get so much grief for it. I think you're allowed to come in too. And I think we have enough gay people. I think you should audition. I think we have too many now.
Right.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
become very in style,
Well,
hasn't
it's
it?
also a class issue. Why is it okay to be gay in rich kids' schools and not in poor kids' schools?
Right. No, that's 100%
Yeah, there's
true.
a little rougher in the inner cities.
When you're a guy who is dealt in filth and counterculture for your entire life, and filth and counterculture starts to become more and more accepted, and sexuality becomes more and more accepted, and all these things that you did, in the 70s and 80s and 90s that were taboo at the time become less and less taboo. Do you find yourself having to figure out what the new taboos are, or do you just say, all right, if the world's catching up to me, the world's catching up?
I think it's great. It's exciting when everybody else is finally laughing at the same stuff. I never just tried to shock you because that's easy and not witty or funny. I use humor to get your attention so you might change your mind about something or consider something in a different way. I'm always drawn to subject matter that kind of appalls me that I don't know the answer to. I'm not that liberal. I don't want to be an adult baby. I'm not marching for them.
You want the guys who want to be put in diapers and taught a lesson.
Oh, God. Talk about faulty toilet training. Yeah.
It's
No,
bizarre.
I've seen pictures of them in bouncy chairs sucking their thumb in a diaper. I thought, I'm sorry, I'm not marching for you.
It's too
I
much.
I don't understand the turn on of it. Does it bother you though that because a lot of it has been sanitized as well? Like you look at 42nd Street, it's not what it used to be. Again, meatpacking
Are
is
you
now.
kidding? Now 42nd Street is like suburbia that I came to New York to escape. Half of New York is what I came to escape, the new malls and these, So the New York that I ran away when I was a teenager, but I think kids are having just as much fun as we did. As soon as you start to think, well, we had more fun in our generation, then you're an old fart and you lose touch and you're not relevant anymore.
Well, Baltimore was a pretty busy place. I mean, it's not like in New York, but was it rough when you were there like it is now?
Oh, we got edge. Come on down. But it's also cheap enough to have a bohemia there. So I like Baltimore even more than I ever did, actually. And that is my main place where I live, definitely.
Oh.
What was it like in the early 90s when suddenly the work that you're doing becomes mainstream? You went through a run. It was like Hairspray and Crybaby and Serial Mom, and you went on this run in the 90s where all of a sudden
Well, I clawed my way to the top and then fell right back down to the bottom. Yeah, so I talk
comfortable
about
at the
that in
top?
the book. I like both. Well, I
Yeah.
had fun doing that. You couldn't have bought a house. Yes, it was fine. They paid. That's what I say. All the movies that I first got famous for, I made almost no money on, and all the big movies later that lost money, I made a lot of money on because I got paid a salary. That was the big difference.
How was it falling?
The falling was great. It was fun because they paid me more each time. So in Hollywood, it's an illusion of success, basically. And Hollywood was fair to me. The more money they give you, the more they're going to have to say. That's just the way it works. I don't have any problem with everybody paid me. Everybody was fine in Hollywood.
When the early 2000s start to pop up and they stop paying you to make movies because they loved you when your movies were making money, and then they stopped loving you when your movies stopped making money, you don't go through a depression or a low or anything like that when you realize,
they didn't
that rides.
stop all at once because they gave me money to make Cecil B. Demented and A Dirty Shame, and then they played all over Europe, and my films still come out on Criterion is releasing. Again, they did Multiple Maniacs, Female Trouble, they're doing Polyester now. So they're still out there. They play on television. They come out in all different forms. They get turned into musicals, and so they're still out there. So I never felt that I got abandoned by show business.
That's great.
And the last books I wrote did better than the movies. So I just like to tell stories.
And you didn't feel like, all right, I'm counterculture, and now that culture kind of likes me, maybe I have to reinvent things or do something different, or you do love the fact that more people are enjoying it?
I like it that more people do. I always wanted to be commercial. I always wanted them to be hits. They just weren't. Although they were weird hits for the audience that they were, designed for. I mean, Pink Flamingos is still playing.
Yeah.
It only cost $12,000 almost 50 years ago, and it's still playing. So I think that is a commercial hit.
And I guess the only difference is that like Crybaby and Serial Mom and movies like that still completely fit in your wheelhouse. It's just that now Kathleen Turner and Johnny Depp are popping up in them, right?
Yeah, they were the same kind of movies, and Johnny Depp took a big chance to work with me, and Kathleen Turner, I'm still friends with him. She's great. I think Serial Mom was my best movie.
Yeah.
So, all the stars I worked with, they came along for the ride. They had a great time. I didn't have problems with any of them.
Did you really talk him out of marrying Winona Ryder?
Well, got pulled out. Yes, I did at the time. Johnny and Winona were together, and they were going to get married, and he got me ordained in the Universal Life Church, which I have done 17 marriages since, but I stopped doing it because people wanted me as a photo op, basically, at their wedding. So, and I did kind of talk him out of it because Winona was really young, and they hadn't known each other that long. I liked them both, and I was for their love affair, certainly, but I was against marriage, period, so I kind of talked him out of it. And I think her parents were thankful. They liked Johnny. It was just like she was real young.
Right. What do you think of Hollywood now compared to when you were coming up and what you've seen and the way Hollywood, they're talking about Me Too and all these things that were going on, and how is it changed, and what do you think of what's happening?
Well, now you need a lawyer to ask somebody for a date. Yeah, it's just the opposite of hellfire. When you went in. So I've seen both extremes. You have to live in what's happening. I basically think most of it is correct. I think, and what I read the other day, I always said, well, do you think it was bad in the movie business? Think what it was like in McDonald's where nobody had a mantle to complain about it.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I just read a huge suit against McDonald's for that exact reason.
For sexual harassment?
So I think it's been going on for a long time. And I didn't ever get it because, Harvey didn't try to fuck me, But,
would you have let him?
Well, you have to do a lot of things to get a movie made.
Do you feel like writing books and doing your spoken word tours and the stuff that you're doing now is more in line with who you were when you started making films, in the sense that you're such an independent creator of stuff? And when you're making big movies, it's difficult to remain independent because there's just so many moving parts. When you're writing a book, it can be you.
Yeah, it's just you. Yeah, well, I have a lot of researchers in my office. But yes, and when I toured always with the movies, too, to promote them. You never can stop touring because that's, especially today, that you have to be in touch with your audience. And what's kind of great about today is everybody's cool everywhere. It's not like you go to Des Moines and there's like people that have never heard of anything. They've heard of everything just as much as the people who live in Manhattan.
Isn't that the weird arrogance of cities where they think that like everybody in the Midwest is a dope and New York and LA will don't get
all.
it.
They know everything because of the internet and everything. So it's completely different. You don't have to move to New York anymore. You have to get noticed in New York, but you don't have to live here anymore. It's so expensive that I don't know. Is there a youthful idea? Could it breathe in Manhattan today? It's so expensive. Could it ignite with some radical kids starting something? I don't know.
You said you always want to be mainstream too. Do you think that most kind of on the fringe artists or alternative artists all deep down want to be mainstream, but after a while, if it doesn't look like it's happening, they just embrace where they are?
Well, I think everybody wants to have some sort of success. I always say in the beginning, somebody beside you and your mother has to think you're good. But at the same time, there's some people. Mike Kelly was a great artist that I really like, and he became so accepted and famous that I think he committed suicide. I think that sometimes if you get too much success or you completely accepted and you were always the bad boy, you maybe don't know how to handle that. I did because I was always thrilled and excited and amazed that this stuff could happen.
Do you think the people who have nothing to push against anymore, like they feel like, okay, this is my whole thing, is kind of fighting my way to the top, and then once there's nothing to push back, like pushing back against them, they just don't know what to do?
Well, there's a lot to push against these days, no matter what you believe in politically. The country seems like it's split right down the middle, 50-50. So everybody's pushing about everything. It's how to negotiate, and that's the main thing. What you learn, how to get through life and to get through Hollywood, and I have achieved the greatest success after 50 years, and I'm never around assholes. And that has taken 50 years to figure out how to do that in every part of my career.
How did you do it?
Personal life. You navigate and you eliminate the assholes and you claw your way over assholes to the good people, and you keep getting networking, a terrible yuppie word, from people that aren't assholes, and eventually you never have to be around one anymore.
It's amazing. That's the American dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
To not be around assholes.
Yeah, to do what you want to do, to say what you want to say, and not be around assholes.
That's
just
exactly
kind of pick
right.
and choose who you're going to be around.
That's success.
Yeah, I think that's 100% success. You've had moments since the 70s where you've been under fire from critics, and before we had cancel culture, you were a part of it, right? Have you had any moments where you felt like, oh no, maybe I pushed the envelope too far? Like, people are really mad this time. I may not be able to do this
Nobody ever got
anymore.
mad.
No, never.
They still don't, because I make fun of things I love. I don't make fun of things I hate.
I see.
So,
and people were able to pick up on that
I mean,
nuance.
in the early movies, I got terrible reviews, but we put them in the ads because it was a different it was a different time. The critics then were on the other side.
Yes.
They were straight, which didn't mean gay, or it meant like they didn't smoke pot.
They were squares.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I remember when people used to say, he's a head. I forgot that. They were a straight or a head, and neither of the things it sounds like today.
Right.
It just meant you smoked pot or didn't.
Right.
And so it was a different time then. Today, bad reviews would hurt me. Yeah,
Right.
I can't use them today, really.
Well, today it's different too, because like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, there's a bunch of people saying it, and you can see what a bunch of people have said, as opposed to just one guy who's got
And
an
then
opinion.
they try to manipulate it too. That's the whole thing, you know. And the Hollywood studios, they used to always, if they thought you were going to get a bad review, this never happened with me because they needed reviews from the art house theaters that I played in, but they would not review it for reviewers. So they had, from when it opened Friday to Sunday, before the word of mouth got out that it was terrible. Today, of course, in 1 second after the movie's over, everybody's tweeting. So that's why you always hear upbeat music in the tail credits. When people are walking out, they want you to think, oh, I liked it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, because realistically, the internet has made it so that it's
1 second.
everybody's
word of mouth.
critics.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there's just more people in newspapers. Every single person that goes to the movie can publish their review.
And not have to sign their name even.
Ever.
Yeah,
and so you say no previews they would do, like they would have no previews for the critics.
Well, previews now, when you see the previews of coming attractions to me, I hate them because they're 20 hours long and they show you the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's basically the pitch, how they got the deal when they went in. The exact plot in order. You don't have to see the movie, really.
Right, you're pitching to the audience now instead of just saying, hey, this cool thing's coming.
Yeah.
What's
And there's too
something
many of them, and they're so long. I think, what time? Why'd you say it started at 8 o'clock? It's 9:15. And I've been sitting here with those horrible things that say, pre-screen test. Like when a director says action, does he mean go, stop? Or, they make me crazy, those things. I hate them so much.
You're supposed to participate on your smartphone.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. good.
Yeah, it's like being at Yankee Stadium and figuring out, I think the blue train's going to win. Like, okay.
It's constant noise, constant, like they don't think
like
that people...
you can't just sit there for a moment and breathe and think about something, right?
Yeah.
But are you on your phone a lot? Like if I'm in
Yeah,
the
I'm on my
dentist
phone.
office, I'm like, what the fuck did I do before my phone? I forget what life was
I
like
know.
without a phone.
What I did before my phone at the dentist office was laughing gas. But it's hard to be on the dentist and getting laughing gas and doing your phone and getting your teeth filled at the same time. That's tough.
It is.
That's a yeah.
You know, a lot of your stuff gets talked about being ahead of its time, but I think the thing that you did that was way far ahead of its time, that doesn't get enough credit for being ahead of its time, was your episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, thank you. That kind of was ahead as far as a big network show to have the gay thing on it with Homer. And I loved my character said to Homer, all steel workers are gay. I think it was, I didn't write that at all. It had nothing to do with it. I think it was a very well written. And children still come over to me in airports and because of it. And especially more so since I did the Alvin and the Chipmunk movie. So now children ask me to pick them up in airport. And I say, are you kidding? Look at me. Can't pick you up. I look like Chester the Molester.
I'm literally a walking police sketch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can't pick you up.
Yeah, so you didn't write it or anything, but clearly the character was designed for you because your character
was named John.
He was named John, and he was just a yellow version of you.
Well, also, but he owned an antique shop, which I never have done in my life or anything. But it was great, and because of that show, I almost had a show on MTV later about me, a fictitious character that I developed with the director, Mike Anderson, who did my episode of The Simpsons. So it didn't happen, but it got close to.
Isn't it crazy? What was the cartoon that just wouldn't air in Alabama because there was a gay character,
Arthur.
a gay wedding? They wouldn't air it on this PBS.
They've been on a real kick lately, haven't they?
Yeah, Alabama.
Yeah. Dr. Coathanger is going to get back in business.
Yeah, Alabama is doing everything they can to prove your theory wrong. That everybody in all states are cool now. Alabama's like, we won't accept it.
Or move here if you are an asshole. We want to be around you.
Yeah, exactly. All the assholes that everybody's
Alabama
trying to
isn't
avoid.
that bad either. I've been there. There are plenty of cool people in
I'm sure
Alabama.
it's the politicians in Alabama.
Yeah, what do you think it is that's causing it to kind of swing back that way?
Because all this political correct stuff makes them feel stupid and they get angry, and I understand that.
It's like a reaction to feeling like they're being criticized,
being made to feel stupid. When they say, "Well, is your child a baby?" What the hell's a baby? That's when you have a child and you don't tell them what sex they are, and they have to decide for themselves.
I haven't heard that.
That's a new one.
You open your book talking a little bit about like trans and stuff like that, which I thought was great because people get so upset if you reference it in humor, and you don't seem to be afraid of catching shit.
Well, I don't think it's funny. I'm amazed at how many people really are now coming out of that closet, and how many people in the world are into that. And I think it's great. I think you should be allowed to go back and forth if you want to. So I don't know that I have so much humor about it, except with parents come to me and they don't know what to do when their daughter comes home from college and has a beard and has had her breasts removed, and they don't really know how to handle it, which I get too. You know, you got to ease your parents into some of these things.
Yeah, babies I've never heard before. That really
babies
bugs me.
or bottom surgery is a hard concept for parents to immediately accept. So you have to give them a little warning and a little schooling about it too, because you can't say to a parent anymore, did you have a boy or a girl? Well, it all depends. Ever shifting. There's no such thing as just boys or girls anymore.
Right, and there kind of isn't, but at the same time, you know, I do think that the parents that go the extra mile and try to push that sort of non-identity onto kids, or the parents that have, you know, their 6-year-old on hormones already. It's like, let's all relax for a second, you know?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you're supposed to tell your kid what to do in the beginning, and if you're wrong, they get to reject you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's called creative being a juvenile delinquent.
Right.
So, I don't know. You're right. You can be too liberal. It's tough, you know. To be a parent's hard. My parents didn't know what to do when they had me. I was born 2 months early. I was like a teacup baby, and there I was, overly baptized and damaged. And right from the beginning, they knew that I wasn't going to be like anybody else, but they did their best. You know, all you can do when you have a child, no matter what they're like, is to try to make them feel safe, and that's the hardest thing you can do.
So for you, it wasn't one of those things where you got out of Baltimore, you moved to New York, and then you started to kind of let all your quirkiness fly.
I never moved to New York. I mean, I have an apartment here, but I stayed in Baltimore. I still live there.
But even as a little kid, you were quirky.
Yeah, but I ran away to New York. I took the Greyhound bus and came up here and saw underground movies.
Very
and
Midnight
pop
Cowboy.
art and everything. Even before that, you know. Yeah, no, I wasn't much of a hustler. Me standing around in a rawhide jacket, I don't think I would have got much business.
That whole thing with the parents too, like John Walker Lind, I think, with the American Talent. I think he had parents like that were like, do whatever you want.
No, he has great parents.
Weren't they really open, like, and very
They were, and they've been supportive the whole time. And I believe that was a lot, really over-exaggerated panic about him when that whole thing happened, to be honest.
Right.
I think it was hysteria about him.
But I'm saying, even when your parents are that open and good, you still try to find something to rebel against. It doesn't matter if your parents, like, they let him do whatever he wants, and they were really like open people, and it's like, all right, fuck it, I'll join the Taliban. Like, whatever it is that just gets your parents angry.
Something, yeah, there's got to be something.
Yeah.
So what are the odds that we get to a place in society where, you know what, I'm really going to stick it to my parents. I'm going to be a hetero, cisgender, white male.
Well,
gotcha.
It can happen, but the thing is, if you're still trying to get back to your parents over 30, something's the matter with you. I think you can blame your parents till you're about 30, but then get over it. We all get dealt a hand. It isn't fair. Yeah, big news. So figure it out. You know, if you're still complaining about your parents, just get away from them or embrace them and make peace, because you turn into a weird version of them anyway, much later in life, whether you like it or not.
Have you seen your traits of your parents in you as you became an adult?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I tried to the good ones. I don't think any of the bad ones. I think I tried to reject, and I think they got more liberal because of me.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I always knew they were there for me, so I never really went off the deep end, even in the most extreme moments of my life. So I think that's incredibly important. I was very, very lucky. I had functional parents. I don't know why I'm so nuts now, really.
So when you have Divine eating feces, dog feces on camera, as everybody knows about in the Pink Flamingo film, your parents are supporting your art?
Well, my father paid for that movie, and he never saw it, and I paid him back, which I think he was mad I paid him back because he wanted not me to pay him back, so I'd never ask him again. And he was amazed that I got these films made, that they were shown everywhere, but I'd get arrested. You know, there was nobody saying they were good then.
Right.
But they were supportive. Yes, they were.
At what point did your dad and mom realize what it was you were doing? If he wasn't seeing the films, at what point did he realize?
Oh, he knew because they were in the paper, and I was getting arrested.
Oh, so he read about the shit eating?
Well, he knew about that, but before that, Multiple Maniacs and Mondo Trasho, I got arrested for conspiracy to commit indecent exposure, shooting a scene on the college campus of Johns Hopkins where he went, and I was a junior, so we have the same name. So my dad my whole life got my obscene phone calls because I'm unlisted. He wasn't.
What was the scene that you were shooting?
Well, it was Divine in a 1959 red Cadillac convertible in a gold lame Toreador suit, imagining a hitchhiker is nude and picking him up. And we didn't ask. I didn't know you were supposed to ask permission. We just went Sunday morning and filmed it, and they called the police, and we all ran. And, of course, Divine escaped with a nude man in the car and drag driving a Cadillac convertible in November, which does not say a lot for the Baltimore police.
And there was no, you never
but
had
we
conviction.
got busted. We all got busted. And then the Civil Liberties Union handled the case.
Oh,
for
they
us.
did.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Never got
But
convicted?
still, this was in the paper a lot. My father was mortified. You know. So
Embarrassed.
they were mortified by plenty, you know. And even at the very end, when Dirty Shame, my last movie about sex addicts, I thought, my poor father has to watch this. He's 80 years old. And he said afterwards, it was funny, but I hope I never see it again.
How come you haven't done a film since?
Well, because that one didn't make money.
Oh.
And the books did. So basically, you go where you can tell a story where they're going to do it the quickest and give you the least resistance.
Do you like the edit process of books, too? Because with a film, even if you edit a film, once you shoot it, it's all there. It's shot, but a book you can rewrite.
It's not always there, and you have to do reshoots. In a book, yeah, that process. I mean, to me, getting as a writer, the first thing is to get the first draft done. And you look at it, and you just keep writing. You don't rewrite every day until you just keep going. And then when it's first draft, you think, who wrote this when you read it? And then you start to rewrite, and then it becomes real. But the endless process, this book took 3 years, and I wrote a lot. It's just I turn in maybe the fifth draft. And then you go through the copy editing, and good publishers have 3 different ones where they still find a comma, you find one thing, and then you have to fact check it, and you have to go through the whole thing with editors. So it's a long process.
Do you let them copy? Sorry, do you let them copy edit your only spelling mistakes or semicolon here, or do you let them kind of? Do they want to start to dictate content a little bit? Or
well, I have a very good editor, Jonathan Galassi, who's very understanding. I mean, I did cut 2 chapters out that I figured maybe I should, but you have to write it to know. So yes, they gave you some thoughts, and almost always I agree with them. It's a good idea. But no, I don't have people. The words you fear are, we need to rethink this. No, I've never had that happen.
Oh, no, I've heard that in every relationship.
Was Divine your muse creatively?
Well, I wrote those movies for Divine. The later movies I didn't write for one specific star. They were Divine vehicles, especially Female Trouble and Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
So Divine was my friend in real life. Like every kid, when they make movies, with their cell phone today, they make them with their friends, right?
Because I always wondered, when Divine passed away, did it become difficult for you to keep writing movies knowing that...
No.
Okay.
He was supposed to be in Desperate Living, and he couldn't because he was doing a play, so I had someone else play the part.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Hairspray, he got really great reviews by playing the opposite of his image.
Yeah.
When he died, I hired Johnny Depp next. I didn't ever work with another drag queen again. Not that I wouldn't, but I felt like I had done that, and Divine had been an early drag queen that influenced all the new drag queens. They all have an edge now.
Does it bug you out that you go from making movies that are literally getting you arrested to seeing your movie get not only remade into a musical, but getting remade into a musical that is now being performed at high schools? High school students are performing your work.
Isn't that the ultimate devious thing I've ever done?
I
to
mean, you
sneak
have
that in.
that,
Sneak that in. No, I'm thrilled by it.
Are you just waiting for society to realize what you've gotten away with?
Well, it's the Trojan horse. They don't realize that they're singing a love song between two men and encouraging their daughters to date black guys. I think and no one knows. That's what I said. Even racists like Hairspray.
Right, they don't realize because the songs are so nice. And look at John Travolta. This is so fun. They don't realize what they're watching.
Well, but maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe I made them laugh. So maybe that way that a fat girl in Hairspray stood for every outsider that possibly could be.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it worked.
Yeah.
Do you still advocate for Leslie Van Houten?
I do, and I'm serious about that. And I don't talk about it much anymore because since I wrote the book where I advocated her parole after being in jail for almost 50 years, she got 3 parole days, the last 3, and Governor Brown turned them down. And then the new governor is deciding right now.
Oh, so she's actually still up for it in the governor's...
No, she's been granted parole by the parole board the last 3 hearings, and each time... Only 3 states, California, Maryland, and Oklahoma, can turn down. The governor has the power to turn it down. But these is the parole board he appointed. And Leslie's last parole board, they completely went through everything that they said, and that's not true. It's not true. She should get let out. Everyone knows that she should get out. They just don't want to be the one to do it.
Was she not? She wasn't actually there when it happened?
Oh, no, she was.
Oh, she was. Did she actually kill anybody?
Yes.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah.
Who was the driver? Wasn't there one of the drivers that wasn't there? That didn't commit any murders? I thought there was one of them.
I don't know. But this was
Squeaky
only...
Fromm?
No, Squeaky Fromm.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
committed murders.
That's right now. It's a thing that I let them talk about it. They got parole. Now it's been granted. It's just a legal thing that her last trial she got 7 years to life. Well, she's been there 50 years. No one else in the system that gets 7 to life would still be there. And she did a terrible thing, and she is the first to take great responsibility for that and sorrow.
Do you still talk to Johnny Depp?
Yes, I do.
So what do you guys do?
I don't ask him about his marriage.
No, I wouldn't think. That's not what I wasn't trying to get the dirt on Johnny Depp through John
Yes,
Waters.
you were. Yes, you were.
What's really going on with him?
I was hoping you'd just give it up without him asking.
I know that right now he has a new album out with the Hollywood Vampires, and he's touring with that. And somehow I'm on it because I get all these Google alerts. And he called me one day and said, say something when he was with Alice Cooper and they were recording the album. And I said something, but I don't remember what. So I don't know how I'm on it. But I guess I'm on this new record.
What do you think it is about the experience with you? They say that I haven't starred in any movies myself.
Right.
I don't know if you know
You
that
should.
or not. Yeah, thank you. But they say that, on movie sets, these friendships are made, these super close friendships, and then they just kind of go away.
Well, that's true. You never see the person again.
But for you, it seems like you do. You say
some of them I do, yeah, and I'm friendly with Johnny. And Johnny was very loyal to people in Baltimore that he met then, that he has no reason to be for power or fame or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a friend that's a local artist there, and he had this opening, and he and Johnny were friends when we made the movie. And I said to Johnny, would you send a video? Johnny did a whole video and sent it in to play, which made the other artists go crazy. He was so amazed by it. So,
what do you think it was about your experience that made it so that broke the rule?
Well, at the time, he was almost like Justin Bieber. He was this huge teen idol for 21 Jump Street, and he hated that. And I loved it. And I said, well, let's make fun of that. Like, come with us, and we'll kill that. You won't be. And it's true. When we first... That's why Cry Baby wasn't a success, because when it first came out, because all the teenage girls went to see it, and they smelled a rat, but they didn't know who, and the rat was me.
Yeah.
Because in a way, we were making fun of the whole image, and he played the image that he was trying to escape and laugh about it. And that's always how
That's very ballsy of Johnny Depp, because, when you find yourself in that role, to escape it and do something like Cry Baby instead of leaning in and collecting all the money you can possibly collect. I mean, that's a ballsy thing to do.
Well, he did get $1 million for it. And I remember him saying to me, "You got me $1 million? How could this possibly happen?"
Is there anything you want to do now that you said that and the last one didn't make money? Is there anything you really want to do now? Like if they gave you money, you would do in a second?
Well, I had 2 movies that I got paid to write and have them happen. One is called Fruitcake. It's a children's Christmas movie about a functional family of meat thieves in Baltimore. And the other one I wrote for HBO, the sequel to Hairspray. And so who knows? They both might happen one day.
Do they give you a reason why they haven't done it yet?
Sometimes they always say, "Oh, we like the script, but we didn't know which we were branding, that or the musical." I thought, well, you knew that before I wrote it. So
is there anything worse than when you meet somebody and they're really big fans, they just want to meet with you, and you're like, this is going fucking nowhere?
Well, it depends what they really big fans and... and what are we going to meet about?
Yeah, I got lots of big fans. What are we going to talk about here? Are you good at writing a script like that and then kind of giving it to HBO?
I've learned to do that you walk away. If
go.
something doesn't happen right away in Hollywood, it usually doesn't happen. So don't get stuck.
Right.
And I did once in my life trying to make the sequel to Pink Flamingos, and I got stuck, and I didn't make a movie for 7 years or something, or do any projects, and that's kind of why.
Because you're obsessed with getting that done.
Yeah,
you can only focus on getting that done.
Yeah, and I should have moved on, because it wasn't going to happen.
Want more Jim and Sam? Catch up with full episodes and interviews from celebrity guests anytime on demand using the SiriusXM app.